I'm so excited to be here today to show you how to use the stone setting punches. Ever since I first saw the precision hole punch method of setting stones, I've been begging for setting tools that have different shapes to correspond to different stone shapes besides round. So Cool Tools is now producing them, and they're a lot of fun and a really quick and easy way to set a bunch of stones to incorporate into all of your projects. So let's get started with what you need to use alongside these punches to set some stones. So in addition to your stone setting punches and the stones that you're going to set, you need a work surface, a snake maker, a pair of tweezers, some tuff guards, clay thickness rolling frames, a sanding stick, and some cool slip. So there are a variety of sizes for these punches in different shapes, and one of the first things that you're going to want to keep in mind when kind of shopping for these punches and coordinated stones is kind of how thick you want your edge to be. So for the inside of the settings that you're going to be making, they just need to be smaller than your stone. So for this 6mm checkerboard sample, I used the 5mm punch for the interior. And then for the exterior, I used an 8mm punch for this one. And for something like Easy 960, you could get away with that kind of thin of an edge. So that's 2mm bigger than my stone. But if I was working with like cypress copper clay or something that I knew was going to shrink a little bit more, I would want to go up more than just 2mm. And for the cushion, that would be the 10mm is the next largest. Just another sample. Here is a 6x8mm oval. And for this one, I used the 4x6 for the interior because that was just the step down in size. And then for the exterior of my setting, I used the 8x10. And again, that's going to be perfect for if you want a thinner bezel and you're working with a clay that you know isn't going to shrink that much on you. But if just for aesthetic's sake you want a bigger one, or if you're working with a higher shrink clay, you'd want to bump up an extra millimeter or so as well. So if you've set stones before using the precision hole punch method, this is going to be very familiar. But just like with that technique, you're going to start off by measuring how deep you need to make your setting. I've got my stone here with the flat face of the stone down against my work surface, and I've got a snake maker, and I'm using the rolling frames to support the snake maker and running it back and forth. And you can see here the stone catches a little bit, and that means my setting won't be deep enough. So I'm going to go up a card and see if that does it. And it does. My stone no longer moves, so this is the correct depth for this setting. Once I've determined the depth of my setting, I always like to go in and put a tuff card behind my rolling frames. That way it's easy to take my setting off without distorting it. So I'm setting my clay patty on top of the tuff card, and then I've got my snake maker here that I prepped with some cool slip. And I'm just pushing straight down. And then I'm going to take the larger of the two of my punches to cut the outside wall. But before I do, I'm going to apply some cool slip to a tuff card and dip the punch to reduce the sticking. And I'm going to cut the outside wall by pushing straight down. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop the shape out. And if it does happen to stick, there is a hole in the back of these, and you can always blow to launch your setting out of the punch. So now I'm going to cut the inside of my setting. That way light can pass through, and I'm reducing the amount of clay that I'm using for this setting. And just like before, I'm pushing straight down, and then I'm pulling up. And then you can either use tweezers or your hand for this, depending on how stable you feel. I usually kind of initially place it, and then I'll use tweezers to kind of tap it perfectly center. And then I'm coming back in with my snake maker and pushing straight down. And just like that, I've set a trillion CZ stone. And I'm going to take this off to the heat. There isn't a ton you have to do to refine this. There's a little bit of a crack there because as my stone was pushed down, the clay had to expand, and my clay was a little bit dry. But I'm just going to hit this edge with either a sanding stick or a sanding pad, and I'm ready to incorporate this into any project that I'd like. So I went ahead and cleaned up the trillion that I set, and then just really quickly made a couple other settings so you can just see what these look like in the greenware phase. This is something that I really enjoy doing when I'm kind of feeling stuck. I'll just kind of set some stones to build up a library, and then that in itself can kind of sometimes lead to some inspiration or a project idea. Like I'm kind of clustering these together and maybe imagining a really fun cocktail ring. Another project that I'm kind of anticipating doing using these settings is maybe some chandelier earrings, where stones really are the focal point, just because it was so quick and easy to make all these settings. And your pieces can get kind of blingy, kind of fancy. I really am so excited that Kohl Tools is making these punches. I think in the past a lot of my work featured round stones simply because using precision hole punches to set stones was the most efficient way to make a clean and professional looking bezel. I'm really looking forward to introducing more stone shapes into my work and can't wait to see how these setting punches expand your metal clay practice as well. Thanks for watching.